That sounds like a plan. Well, greetings to you and regarding this World University and School monthly business meeting on May 21st, 2022, Saturday, 9 a.m. in the morning in Pacific time in California. It's open and an hour long. So I've recently looked through further the agenda and news and made it a little more explicit, I think. And thank you, Larry, for being the Chief Financial Officer and helping also focus World University and Schools development over all these years in so many ways. The first agenda item that I'd love to explore has to do with World University and Schools seeking to offer free PhD degree in management and sociology beginning this September 1st. And we got a request for information from someone, I think in the Philippines, first name Gerard, for this about 2 weeks ago. Okay. And I've gotten back to him a couple of times, but I'm wondering about how to find courseware at MIT, open courseware, that might even emerge newly in a CS First with Google at World University and School platform. That's the first question. But thoughts about that? We're not in charge of CS First with Google at World University and School? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so where I've left it with Gerard, and we have a large agenda today, is that we're seeking to develop a first year of PhD courses in a potential 7-year average time to completion PhD program at World University and School, emerging from CC4 ocw.mit.edu. And have put that out to CS First with Google, but haven't heard back very much explicitly. We've gotten a test case of where CS First with Google is going, and it wasn't explicitly about a first year of PhD courses. It could have emerged from it could emerge into something for first year of bachelor degree courses, as I see it, for even Mwende Evande in Cameroon, Africa. So I'm sort of in a waiting mode to see, or what, is there any way we can get back further to Gerard about how he might proceed in September?
Does he have a bachelor's degree already?
I think he does. I found him on social media site, which lists that he has a bachelor's degree. But it's not entirely clear that it's he. And so, yes, that's a good question.
And then after that, we can try to come up with a set of courses, regardless of the CS First, with or without CS First, we can come up with a set of courses once we know what his background is.
Yep. He hasn't, I was really grateful to get his inquiry, but he hasn't gotten back to us since.
So don't spend too much time until he does.
Right. And he also, I have the impression that number of the students who have expressed interest in our PhD programs, including Prasanth in India and Alvian in Indonesia, and Imad Zalmat in Morocco, might appreciate more structure than MIT OpenCourseWare. It's open-endedness. It's Creative Commons 4 licensing, allowing for 1, sharing, 2, freely sharing, 2, adapting MIT OpenCourseWare, but 3, non-commercially, is amazing. And this kind of gets to an agenda item later, which has to do with World University and School exploring creating OpenCourseWare, even on a smartphone, that might parallel, for example, Coursera's OpenCourseWare. And could World University and School do this somehow through a kind of MOOC platform that might emerge from Creative Commons 4 licensed CS first with Google at World University and School? Those are all big questions with no direct contact at Google, for example. But thoughts about that?
No, I just don't think we should spend too much time until we got more specifics, that's all. Okay,
sounds good. So item 2, Ewan Burney, who's a geneticist in the British Isles and brilliant, retweeted an Open Targets genetics website, which is in the Google Cloud. So potentially it could be used with other Google platforms, including their.
Okay, now let me interrupt.
Yep.
To caution you, the word genetic to a computer scientist means something different than you think of genetics.
Yeah.
Genetics to a computer scientist is a way of approaching coding.
Yeah, it's data sets also.
It's what?
It's especially data sets.
Yeah.
And it's the approaching coding idea here is interesting because they're using querying, which Google excels at, vis-a-vis their Google search, to, I think, identify open targets for particularly drug development for genetics. And there a few, so it is the coding structure of this software, but it's also interesting because
they call it genetic algorithms.
Yeah.
GA.
Interesting.
It's abbreviated GA.
Okay.
And it has nothing really, I guess you could try to apply it to biology, but it doesn't really affect biology at all.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a good 10 years, maybe 20 years.
What I think is interesting about Open Targets also is that it's they're public data sets, and it's a public and private project out of the British Isles. There's much opportunity here, I think, for connecting these vast amounts of data sets relating to genetics that Open Targets is coding for, and then even potentially connecting that with avatar bots that might be electronic medical records. What I find interesting about this further with regard to a possible WUaS Longevity Genetics Institute, even on the Ridge and Canyon 94516, is possibly the ability to connect these data sets of genetics from Open Targets in the Google Cloud with 6 species. Could we make a Drosophila fly live 5 years, a single one, by adding the right genetics drugs back, more than the maybe 90 days of its outer lifespan? But further, Ewan Burney posted again, retweeted again, a New England biology company that's producing all these genetic products. And we could potentially produce genetic drugs as well, with the right staff, the right scientists, that would be products as well that would emerge potentially. And this website from New England, the NEB is their abbreviation for their website too, New England Biology or something, lists all their products, their genetic products. It's a fascinating model for a whole bunch of other possible genetic products. And it could lead to longevity and aging reversal drugs relating to these specific data sets that are very different from the biology, but they would inform how we might understand the biology on the computer side.
Well, my only suggestion is for you to do a little web browsing on the WUaS genetic algorithm.
Oh, thank you. Good. Okay. We'll check it out. Item 3, World University and School is going through a Wikibase cloud migration journey, which is momentous. So we are moving from WB Stacks, Wikibase Stacks, to Wikibase Cloud, which is Wikibase is the software which manages Wikidata and helps create, helps organizations that are interested in open data create potential instances of Wikibase, like a library or a collection or similar. And so this opens up a vast ocean of potential. I mean, we could create 200 world-class university libraries in all of 200 countries and in their main languages, out of, as one example of 200 instances of Wikibase that World University.
The hard part is still when you click a link, what do you get? Okay.
Yeah.
You got to have it come up in your language, and you got to have essentially then 100 or so copies of the same book, or you have to have instantaneous translation going on at the time. So. Yeah.
Good point.
It opens it up, but it doesn't do it for you. It just opens it up. There's still a lot of work to be done.
And World University and School, although we haven't hired yet, in a broad envisioning, could seek to hire for 2.3 million people over 50 years or so. And so, yes, a lot of work and potentially great work. But we need to begin to hire the coders for that. So this opens up a remarkable opportunity, this Wikibase cloud migration journey for World University and School, I think. We've been in Wikidata, the structured knowledge database kind of back end, since 2015. We got sort of the front end, MediaWiki, in 2017. We got WB Stacks, Wikibase in 2020, but those three weren't working together. And then we're going through this migration right now to Wikibase Cloud from WB Stacks. And this is also something that may dovetail with even a Ghana World University and School. But that's a later item number. And it's just interesting that, too, to me, with our sort of monthly business meeting approach, that Wikimedia, Wikidata has a whole different orientation to planning, that they were seeking to get this Wikibase cloud migration done by May 17th, but they've postponed it to May 24th completion. So they're on schedule. And here we are with monthly business meeting with a open-ended sort of approach to achieving goals, let's say. Maybe we can learn more from this wiki-based cloud migration journey. And even if the seemingly enthusiastic people in Ghana in the Wikimedia Dagbani language group on Twitter could focus some development of World University and School in Ghana in the Dagbani language with specific goals, that would be amazing. And it could become a prototype for all 200 of our online universities in all 200 countries. So this sort of, that they're achieving their goal, not on May 17th, but on May 24th, potentially, is fascinating to me. Thoughts about that?
No, I was just saying, wait to see what comes out on May 24th. That's only a week away. So.
Yeah. The Ghanaian, who I think is in Berlin, whose first language is Dagbani, also retweeted a Wikidata tweet about cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And
because what they've done in the last 2 weeks is astonishing.
Yeah. Who have done in the last 2 weeks?
All the cryptocurrencies have bombed out in the last 2 weeks. All is extreme, of course, but I mean, they've gone enormously.
Those are interesting questions with even regard to Stanford MindPy cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I thought about that one when I saw it, but I didn't see it listed in anything I read. So.
Well, what the Wikidata tweet, and this is the first tweet I've seen from, this is the first Wikidata information. We've been in Wikidata since 2015 again. That was sort of our first entree into collaborating or partnering with Wikidata, these open data projects, wiki projects. The tweet reads, first one I've ever seen from Wikidata about cryptocurrency, probability distributions and rivers. Here's what happened around Wikidata over the past week. And then there's a link. So interesting that, I mean, as we've been talking a little bit about, it's possible that World University and School will seek to code for all 7.9 billion people, speakers of all 7,000 languages, people in all 200 countries, as wiki teachers and learners at World University and School, and to also possibly distribute a single cryptocurrency like Stanford MindPy to end poverty, and to create a main worldwide cryptocurrency. Is Wikidata possibly expressing their interest in cryptocurrency here?
Or are they 6 months behind the real news in the world? You know, I'm more skeptical about cryptocurrencies than you are, and so far the last couple of weeks have shown my skepticism.
I mean, I appreciate being far from the cryptocurrency buying and selling of stock fray. But I'm also just want to keep moving here, but noticing that they're in the MIT Technology Review journal, which has been around since 1898 or something like that.
I get it. Yeah, I get it every month. Yeah.
Great, interesting. I may get it, start getting it. They haven't done a single story on Stanford MindPy, and I've
not seen it. Yeah.
I retweeted something about that to Antonio Regalado, who's I think the executive editor there, and haven't heard anything. And I know in our monthly business meetings, I've occasionally mentioned Niha Narula as the executive director of the MIT Digital Currency Initiative, as one sort of knowledgeable person who's following these issues. There was a recent retweet on the MIT Digital Currency Initiative Twitter feed saying that Neha was currently advising US senators on how cryptocurrencies work. An interesting further development in these regards with also an MIT connection. So moving on, item 3C. So one of the reasons I think that Wikidata has been interested in World University and School is potentially for the WUaS and WUaS publishing, the press, our academic press at WUaS and WUaS publishing, and even in all 7,151 known living languages. And academic press, I think Wikidata has created a remarkable set of database wiki resources, but they haven't had necessarily a business focus. I think an academic press could be a revenue generator in these regards too. But Wikidata is only in 300 languages. And there are 7,151 known living languages, apparently, and they're extinct ones too. So there's a growth story of 6,900 more languages there.
Yeah, but the total number of speakers diminishes rapidly.
Yeah, the number of known living languages bounces around, and this.
I know. I'm just talking about the main ones. You know, you've got 99% of the people covered already with the first 300. So.
Yep. That's very true. And yet there's a lot of work in those remaining 6,900 languages, even if they have, 1,000 people or 5,000 speakers of them or whatever. Yeah, or 10 speakers left or something. I think from an academic perspective, they're interesting in their own way.
Yeah, for different reasons. But from point of view of our focus, there's only 10 speakers, might as well be 0.
So, I mean, Wiki data could be interested. They've been in some ways very present for us in a laid back way, in a passive way. We've had this media wiki going, not connected to Wikidata because Wikibase wasn't there since 2017, which I update now and then. And that this could also inform the physical digital WUS educational services stores, bookstores in particular. And I think Wikidata could see value in that possibly as well. I also think that if this gets down to sort of the WS Corporation at the bottom, and a more recent item D agenda item I've added, that our bookstores, if we can create 200 world-class libraries, based even on the German National Library's use of Wikibase to create further their national library, could our bookstores sell books to our libraries, our world-class libraries? And could we use sort of the structure of the German National Library in Wikibase, which may be how Wikimedia Germany and Wikidata have gotten funding for our online bookstores, and also for our 200 proposed libraries, either instances of these libraries, if some countries are doing their own national libraries in Wikibase, or actually creating many countries' national libraries as world-class university libraries at World University and School is the idea. Thoughts?
Yeah, you have to worry about copyright though.
Yeah. Very much so. And I think there, we've a lot of organizations have been including Twitter, have been looking very closely at those questions for quite a while now. I went into, for example, the German National Library, which I think is in Wikibase and Wikidata, recently, and looked up Angela Merkel and Goethe and Rilke, the poet, found them, but I didn't see if I could access any books and actually read the books that came up in those hits.
Okay, well, that's a good task for you.
And that's the copyright question, partly in some
Yep.
ways, from another country's library.
And the problem with that is that each country's laws are going to be different. So it's not like you can solve the problem once, you have to solve it 200 times.
And where Wikidata and Lydia Pincher are coming out is all about open data. So
Yeah, well, that makes it easy. If it's open, then you don't have any trouble.
yeah, absolutely.
But what you're going to find is authors don't come out with closed because they want to get their money somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
John Palfrey was key in some of these conversations. The president of the MacArthur Foundation, former Harvard law professor, head of school at Phillips Academy, Andover, was key in these library conversations 5 to 10 years ago in these regards too. And it's that focus on openness of data, and even World University and Schools engagement of the CC4 licensed MIT OpenCourseWare in its 4 languages, and the CC4 licensed CS First with Google at WUaS that complement these processes. CC4 licensing is only part of the issue. It's one way of thinking about Creative Commons licensing is it is ownership for the organization or author that produces it, but for sharing. So it's a rewrite of sort of copyright, but fortunately, all these organizations, CC4, ocw.mit.edu, and Wikimedia, I think Wikidata, are focusing on the open data aspects of these. So will our students be able to get books from other countries, world-class libraries that we create, or that other countries, say Japan, creates, even out of Wikibase, or Nigeria or similar, or Ghana, now that we have a Wikimedian contact there who might facilitate a world-class library for Ghana in its 11 government-sponsored languages. So about 30 minutes left. I'm going down this agenda, and just Wikibase could be used for libraries. Wikibase could also be used for, it's used for collections. Wikibase could also be used for museums. It could be used for research. It could be used for science. And it could inform, and there's some interesting showcases in the agenda and news. So moving on to item 3D. So on our press, our academic press at WUaS, we recently added an impressum, which is a way for a publishing organization to, I think, increase their credibility, its contact information. It's a way of relating to the public sphere in part, I think, as well. Item 4, Uganda World University and School developments, and even an online teaching hospital and an online medical school. So Gerard McLeod, MD from Georgia, and his wife Minna are going to Uganda soon to help with a hospital which is in southwest Uganda, a landlocked country in East Africa. And it's the hospital is 6 miles west of a small town called Ibanda, Uganda, which is 30,000 people. And I've explored with him, I'll be brief here because we have a lot of agenda items, the possibility of World University and School developing our online teaching hospitals in conjunction with them. And for these other questions too. And they're right now, I think, trying to get water going and electricity working and solar panels delivered or something like that. These are, but there could be a fascinating contact there. I know Georgia also has Kaiser Permanente. There are 8 states in the US which have Kaiser Permanente. And I've curious whether Ed Smythe, the newly written down chief academic officer, Ed Smythe, MD in the Bay Area, who's a retired Kaiser Permanente medical doctor, but could be on the Permanente medical group organizing team, whether Ed Smythe, MD and Gerard McLeod, MD might come into conversation with even something about Kaiser Permanente's collaboration in Uganda or something like that. Any thoughts about that in our?
No, that's too far away from my experience.
So. Okay. Item 5, WUaS career developments. This is just a brief brainstorm. If we have a career counseling wiki subject and we have a finding a job you love or create a wiki subject, but one idea with machine learning would be for your career development, if you could attend any 5 talks per day at the greatest universities in the world, walking around its virtual reality campus to learn, for example, at Stanford, MIT, Harvard, Oxbridge, what talks would you hear? And could World University and School use machine learning to create YouTube videos, a series for this for career development? And it's an interesting possibility for people who want to explore their agency or intentional choice around career development, possibly, if they're not already doing it on their own. Yeah. Item 6, we talked about this a little bit, but a World University and School coding a smartphone app or application program for free cc4ocw.mit.edu centric at World University and School courses for credit toward free degrees. There's a lot of knowledge out there already with Coursera and edX about how to write apps for smartphones for courses. We're ongoingly engaging the Creative Commons for licensing of ocw.mit.edu, 2,600 courses or so in English, undergraduate, graduate, very cool possibility. Item 7, WUaS robotics, WUaS collaborations with humanoid robots, such as Toyota's THR3. Is that Toyota Human Resources 3? I don't know.
I don't know.
For WUaS home robotics. They even have a chair at Toyota in these pictures where the Toyota researcher is in this chair with lots of even sensors on him, and also maybe coding the physical robot, the humanoid robot, to shake a hand with a human. And there's potentially even writing of AI from this chair for robots, and a learning process that could be transposed to home. Our students could be in such a chair that we send various things home in the mail to them to create their own chair to learn how to code robots in interesting ways, in creative ways, in the infinite number of ways that humanoid robots will be coded, and maybe in conversation even with human brains and human bodies. Item 8, just, I guess this is sort of a 7A, not seeing many humanoid robots around university campuses in the US.
Carnegie Mellon's had one for many, many, many years.
Oh, interesting.
When you walk into their computer science department or building or something, you're greeted by a humanoid looking robot.
Right, great.
You've got a name, which I, of course, forgot.
I also, they had, one of the professors at Carnegie Mellon had a bagpiping robot. It was a pretty early prototype as well, but it was humanoid of a sort. Yeah, interesting to get the approaching lifelike walking around the campus humanoid robots, and it's cool that and myriad ways, you know, like a THR3 from Toyota. Added item 8A, 10 best humanoid robots, according to one list. So a virtual Earth for robotics, item 8B, new developments. Found this amazing for Lego kits, and the WUaS Press, WUaS Educational Services Bookstore Robot Stores is an authorized carrier of Lego robotics. On the virtual side, there's an amazing virtual robotics toolkit. The link is, and it shows all the parts from Lego Mindstorms, and you can assemble the Lego Mindstorms robots bricks virtually. And it's exactly sort of what I'm wondering about for all kinds of reasons. Add different kinds of bricks to the, if the physical bricks don't exist, or the physical hubs or smart hubs for Lego Mindstorms doesn't exist. Or in our students coding for a possible mission to Mars in the late 2030s virtually. So that's cool. And a very interesting set of possibilities. Item 9, Harvard Chief of Genomics at the Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Prof of Genetics, Heidi Ream. A fascinating oral history. George Church was in this series of oral histories as well. They're the ones who are going to help code for a realistic virtual Earth for genetics, because they know it so well. And that's my getting these knowledgeable people also for a realistic virtual Earth for genetics is going to be key in coding for this, getting back to even open targets with its public data sets in the Google Cloud. Item 2. Item 10, this idea came up from when Mwende Volcano Avande from Cameroon was exploring the possibility of possibly another college or coming to another country from Cameroon. And so I added to our worlduniversityandschool.org website some information about transferring, because I don't think Mwende, for example, knew sort of how it works, at least in the US, that you would find a program that you were interested in and then apply to that and see if you got in, and then go there. And those colleges and universities in the US often have stipends for foreign students, for example. So,
yeah, they also have an office or a person who's responsible for helping foreigners know the rules and don't know what's there.
My impression,
go ahead.
My impression is that he's very interested in the free aspect of World University and School.
Of course.
And that he's also interested, I think, in, I mean, maybe the quality of computer science CS first with Google at WUaS, potentially building on CC4 or ocw.mit.edu would have some attraction for him.
Yeah, but that's because of the buzzwords on Google, MIT, blah, blah, blah. It's not because he's done any evaluation of whether the programs are any good or not.
Right, right. No, I mean, this is, if we do start getting large class sizes, this information on how to transfer will inform how we create transcripts as well. You know, if someone in Ghana, if we get 100 students at Ghana World University and School in the Dagbani language, and one of them thinks about transferring to MIT for specific reasons, how we write our transcripts will emerge at that point.
Yeah, right. We have to have enough to make it worth our spending any time doing that, though.
Right.
I'm not going to do it for 100, maybe 10 questionable.
Yeah. I mean, make it worth our while. It's possible with our Ghana Wikimedia communication manager contact that we can even figure out reimbursement questions as well, as we seek to create even a prototype university along with bookstore and robot store in Ghana in Dagbani questions. And those are cool things thanks to this new development and their tweets that they find World University and School, that they're seeking to understand it more. Item 12, WUaS real-time music making new protocol on a smartphone. This was this is kind of a brainstorm that came up from a trip to the Travertine Hot Springs last Saturday. So on smartphones, on my Android Pixel 3a smartphone, there are 3 icons at the top that indicate broadband connectivity. One is LTE, long-term evolution. Another is H+, maybe relating to high definition, like videos or films or something like that. And the other is a Google Maps icon. It's an upside down teardrop. And I could only imagine, and it may be in the works and Google engineers are similar, that Google Maps sort of, I think, connectivity. So you can get Google Maps in remote locations and things like that, could be very valuable even for Google Maps as air flight software. And even for autonomous vehicles in a crash, you'd want the internet to be right there and very, very fast, very, very real time if 2 autonomous vehicles crashed or 1 autonomous vehicle crashed. And could that upside down teardrop for Google Maps also become a real-time music making protocol, even into Google Street View?
That's a step that's hard to get to.
Yeah. How do you create the chips and how do you code? What are you saying?
I was going to say, how do you get to reporting a crash to playing music?
No, so if it's a specific protocol like HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, yeah. Secure, which is the website address, all websites are preceded by that. If it's a specific protocol for air flight and already existing for Google Maps for remote locations sometimes, could it be tailored, further engineered and designed for crashes for autonomous vehicles and also for real-time music making? So
you're thinking of separate, instead of logging into HTTP, is log into music.
Or into that Google Maps, and yeah. Google Maps is connected with Google Street View and Google Earth. So you could have in Google Street View avatars and video of people in real time, musicians, for the site aspect of musician to musician. That's a lot of data to be streaming through a Google Maps protocol. But
that's right. You multiply that by 100 million people and you got a big data set.
But if you're going to have it for crashes and for air flights, let's do it for music too. Let's engineer
All
music,
right.
real-time music in there is the idea. Item 13 is the WS News and question and answer videos on our new YouTube channel are growing in number, and they're there. And there are also some monthly business meetings from the past 2 or 3 months. And somehow, I think someone at Google or someone gave us a new name for the URL for the main YouTube channel, which is cool. It means that someone else is doing some World University and School work in some ways.
All right.
That's good. Item 14, World University and School is, we've been in Google My Business social media for maybe 2 or 3 years, but we're posting more there. Can't post pictures, and maybe they're dealing with copyright questions in a different way, and maybe they're integrated with the Google ecosystem and platforms in different ways. But also item 14 is includes a rock concert, Google I/O 2022, last Wednesday and Thursday, input output, sort of their Google information of what's newly coming out at Google. There's a 11-minute video or so that with Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet, and a bunch of other Googlers that is very cool there, for including a focus on place and a couple of other World University and School relevant things. So to be seen how we grow further with Google as well with regards to item 14. Item 15, financial reports for both wings. Where are we heading? How can we get there?
Well, we're sort of drifting is where we're heading.
Right. Okay.
We haven't really made money sold a few stock certificates basically, and that's about it.
Yeah. That would be on the WS Corporation side for selling the stock certificates. Yep. Not clear yet how to plan for increasing either financial report in a very structured way, such as the wikibase.cloud planning to achieve its goals by May 17th, but postponing to May 24th yet for World University and Schools, both wings. We're drifting. Okay, thank you. Item 16, a major online cc4ocw.mit.edu centric university in your country and in your native language. Could we begin with Ghana, Work World University and School, planned in the Dagbani language? This has come out of this conversation with this same Wikimedia manager on Twitter, of all things. And the Dagbani Wikimedian language group is also working on, they're in a workshop to learn more about how Google AI works, artificial intelligence, and how Google can include more Ghanaian languages like Dagbani language in Google Translate and other products and services. That's very cool. If we want to figure out how to add 6,900 more languages to Google Translate too, maybe the Dagbani speakers will show us the way. But the other idea is that with World University and School, Ghanaians and anyone can learn by doing or understand by making. Ghanaians were seeking to understand World University and School and the WUaS press further. They can understand by making. World University and School is the idea. And I think that our Wikimedian Ghanaian contact is in a position maybe with coders as well at Wikibase and at Wikidata and at MediaWiki to possibly create a university for the 3 million or so Dagbani speakers, maybe 1 to 2 million in a country of Ghana has maybe 30 million people, to be seen. Down to 9 minutes. Item 17, World University and Schools, university libraries. We've talked about this a little bit above, but emerging out of this World University and School migration to WikiCloud, could we use the German National Library as their data structures as a way to create 200 world-class university libraries in all 200 countries' main languages?
Okay, and the agreement was you would try in the next month to see if you can actually get a book.
To get a book about?
Or about anything. But you said
okay, yeah, good. Okay.
I'm just making sure you remember what to do.
yeah. Can we check a book out of a library online in another country, or read one? Yeah. Good. So item 18, World University and Schools, medical schools, teaching hospitals, and WUaS Longevity Genetics Institute in California, in Ghana, in Cameroon, and Uganda. If we can start a WUaS medical center, medical schools, teaching hospitals, and Longevity Genetics Institute, even up on the ridge in Canyon, and make that just brainstorming wise, a possible shop or build another space for it, a multimedia space that could be a clinic and a hospital. Could we digitally connect that space up on the ridge and canyon, say the shop turned into a multimedia room as a hospital, with similar spaces in Ghana, Cameroon, and Uganda, and even for telerobotic surgery. So what services could our potential hospital on the ridge and canyon offer is the brainstorming idea. And I emailed this.
Information is the main thing. Information to places in the world that don't have access to that kind of information.
Yeah, I mean, I envision it as a medical school with a teaching hospital, and lots of people with physical ailments come into teaching hospitals all over the country. My father, Gordon McLeod, MD, was I think he wrote a number of papers about the quality of the medical doctors in teaching hospitals, for example. So yes, providing information for sure.
And also, there tend to be, of course, not very much information about obscure diseases in obscure places. I mean, if the U.S. doesn't have that disease, they're not going to find much about it.
Yeah. So if someone comes into the virtual, this is brainstorming wise, hospital at in our academic medical center that's based physically, possibly brainstorming wise, on the ridge and canyon, with a rare condition or infection or something, could we find out, could our medical staff, our medical doctors diagnose that remotely? Might be one question. As a research university, I see two directions. One, possibly develop with Stanford Medicine's, Duke University Medical Schools, Google's, and Verily's Project Baseline, which has the idea, I think, of medical samples taken in the clinic, such as blood, sweat, tears, stool, saliva, cardio on a measuring machine to get a baseline, all of which could be done from home too, and then convert this digitally into data, and then revolutionarily, Project Baseline, I think the vision was to offer pathways to health. And could we do that in this medical reconceiving out of our hospital? If people came to our hospital, could we do a home Project Baseline for them, and could they get healthy in the process? And even add to this genetics for longevity and aging reversal into avatar bot electronic medical records. That's one direction I could see for a possible virtual hospital emerging from the ridge on Canyon. And another thing could be for planning for telerobotic surgery in a realistic virtual earth for surgery, and for robotics. And here, the Google Street View idea. And for Ghana, so could we connect our WS teaching hospital on the ridge in Canyon, but being virtual for telerobotic surgery, with a Ghana WS teaching hospital for telerobotics, and a California one, and a Scotland one, and a Cameroon one, and a Uganda one. So how to collaborate further with Stanford and Duke Medicine. There's a Stanford Medicine Grand Rounds with Amy Abernethy, and pretty interesting 50-minute video. Worth seeing. It's partly about Project Baseline at 38 minutes, but also about data and some of the questions emerging around virtual medicine. So item 19, I just wanted to mention this to you aside, and this is fascinating to me. Thursday at the Stanford Law Codex meeting, Roland Vogel, the executive director, said something about, and this was said into the video, there may be a recording, but you are partnering with us. And I wasn't clear, who he was speaking to. It was very vague. So are we partnering, is World University and School partnering with Stanford Law Codex based on what Roland Vogel said there? I don't know.
No, it sounds more like a generic you, but who's listening.
Or you who are in the, yeah, for example. Good point. But I heard it in possible different ways. So great. So we have about 1 minute left for the WS Corporation side. I'll zing through this. So could our WS physical digital robotics educational service stores focus on teaching and learning robots and in 200 countries? And could we collaborate with the 2 new Google stores in the New York City area, in Chelsea and in Williamsburg, New York? Item B, main single cryptocurrency such as Stanford MindPi for all 7.9 billion people, each a Wikidata PIN number to end poverty. And newly in the WS migrating to the Wikibase cloud, would all of these 7.9 billion Wikidata PIN numbers for possibly main cryptocurrency be housed in the German National Library? Who knows? How will or how might that work out? Item B1, so mainnet, which is what a lot of cryptocurrencies are becoming part of, MAINNET, is a place for exchanges for cryptocurrency. That mainnet information had become available newly on the Stanford MindPi cryptocurrency application app on my smartphone. And Pi goes up all the time on my smartphone. Pi coins are increasing all the time, second by second. It's part of the structure. And I have, I think, 6 pictures in the 6 different Twitter feeds I post to for that increase on the Stanford MindPy app on my smartphone in mainnet, as an example of how it's going up and how mainnet looks on the Stanford MindPy app. Item B2 is those 6 pictures. Let's see. They're going through a validation identity verification process. And I've tried to engage it once or twice initially, but I skipped it because I didn't get the information to my email box in the very first time or two. And then a couple of other times I've decided not to develop my identity verification in the Pi network because there was only a 15-minute window, and but they're developing the identity verification, which is a key issue for cryptocurrencies, I think, in many ways. Item B4, Stanford computer scientist Phil Windley, now in Utah, UC Davis, PhD in computer science, says that he's very focused on identity questions for cryptocurrencies. And he writes in a Twitter, "We must get to the identity side of the equation right before we continue with the money side." Quote, "I am a very strong supporter of retail digital currency, but I am acutely aware of the potential for a colossal privacy catastrophe."
Yeah.
So he also, there's a quote above it from a woman about the future of digital identity. And she's maybe looking at it in terms of entrepreneurially and facial recognition, and what happens when video comes along and adds to Stanford MindPy identity verification, for example, or not, or identity questions here. So I think it's the Neha Narula's, the director of the MIT Digital Currency Initiative, that's interpreting some of these questions to, for example, US senators, but there's 200 countries out there. So I know we're a little over time, but I'll just zip through the last 3 items. With the item C, Wikidata, and with the new WS migration to Wiki-based cloud and the WS Press partnering further, and potentially with our machine translation and machine learning to publish both to paper in books and also in a new WUaS VR format. And the academic press having recently added that impressum or imprint to our academic press webpage, there is some potential for selling to, for example, all our prospective world-class libraries in all 200 countries. Interesting opportunity. Item D, I think is, yeah, that's that idea of possibly selling to different countries from our press. If you look at that over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's a very cool opportunity for our academic press in 7,000 languages. So item E is a new possible product direction focused on sustainable energy technologies, a solar air heater as a new product for our students, but also for learning purposes. Can we, in this time of rapid change with solar and even with robotics, can we develop solar air heaters for our students around the world for free heat? And there have been a couple of YouTube videos I've been following and have wanted to use those here, where in my cold dwelling in this safe house north of Berkeley, and it's just on the cusp, but can we develop these as well as and combine it with robotics? Interesting direction. Any thoughts on that before we close, Larry?
No, I think we've overshot our time enough.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Larry, for this WS Monthly Business Meeting on May 21st, 2022. And talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So that's World University and Schools Monthly Business Meeting, about an hour on third Saturday of the month. It's potentially open. You can email meeting@worlduniversityandschool.org, and we'll post the video to the new YouTube channel, Scott McLeod World University. And until next month, third Saturday of June, 9 a.m. Pacific time, twitter.com/WORLD UNIVANDSCH, and the website is worlduniversityandschool.org. Bye for now.